Alrighty then.
Alrighty then. I don't know why she said that. She never said that before.
First.
I know.
Hey, Ruth.
You are all set, Senator Gray.
All right, thank you. Welcome. I'm Senator James Gregg. Today we will be having an executive session on the House bills. Before we get started, I will read through the checklist to ensure that the meeting that we are holding is in compliance with the right to know law. As chair of the Senate Election Law and Municipal Affairs Committee, I find that due to the state of the emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04 and its extensions, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. In accordance with the emergency order, I'm confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possible by video and other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom webinar for this electronic meeting. All members of the committee and selected legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously in this meeting through this platform. And the public has access to contemporaneously watch or listen to the meeting on Zoom and YouTube and via the phone by following the directions and links provided on the general court website. We have provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting in the Senate calendar. We are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, please email remotesenate@leg.state.nh.us or call area code 603-271-6931. In the event the public is unable to access this meeting due to problems on our end, we will adjourn and reschedule. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Finally, let us start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state where you are and if anyone else is in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. I will call the roll. Senator Birdsall.
Hi, Senator Bursell, District 19. I'm in my home in Hampstead, and my husband is now at work, and I am alone except for the dog.
Senator Warden.
Ruth Ward, District 8. I'm in my home and started, and I am alone in this room.
Senator Susie.
Good morning. This is Donna Susie. I am currently in my car, almost home, and I am alone and will be alone when I get home.
Senator Perkins Quokka.
Senator Rebecca Perkins Quokka. I'm in my home in Portsmouth and I am alone in the room.
And I am James Gray, and District 6, and I'm in my home in Rochester and alone in this room. We'll take a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, and we'll call the roll. Senator Birdsall.
Yes.
Senator Ward.
Yes.
Senator Susie.
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Before we get too far, I do want to take a couple of minutes to talk about Wyndham. On Saturday, they ran several test decks through two of the machines in Wyndham. Some of those decks had folds. Some of those test decks were flat and not folded. And to quote the audit team as best I can from this morning's report, that the flat ones were 100% correctly read, and the folded ones had problems, an error rate of between 25 and 60 some odd percent, pointing to their hypothesis that the folds did affect the outcome and the reason for the large discrepancy. They are investigating that, along with in the next day or two, we'll be downloading the programming that is on the card and continuing to investigate. In fact, one of the auditors is planning a visit to the place where the ballots were printed to make sure that there was no irregularity there. So I believe that they are doing a good job. They are accepting comments from the people that are there observing. In fact, I guess the observers actually filled out some of the ovals on the test decks that they were running through the machines on Saturday. And the observers have asked for some of the absentee ballots at random to be selected and put under the camera, and then the camera displayed on the video screens so that they can see what's going on. Apparently there is a difference whether the fold is up or the fold is down when they go through those machines that are having the erroneous count. But again, we need to wait until the complete report is done before we start saying that there is or is not a smoking gun in this case. So certainly 45 days from, I guess, Thursday is when the report will be due. Do any of the senators have comments on what's going on in Wyndham?
No, I would just, I guess, yes, I do have a quick comment, and if I may be mistaken, but I think this is something that the Secretary of State had suggested might have been the issue. So.
And one thing that I did not know is that there was a test done a couple of years ago, according to one of the auditors, where they actually did do a test with some folded ballots. And he said it was on the order of 2 to 3 or more years ago. So that'll be interesting to have the Secretary of State, when the audit report comes out, to be able to look at that. Could be just adjustments to the machine that need to be done. It sounds like there's the fold, as long as that fold doesn't go through one of the timing marks or one of the ovals, that the ballots are counted correctly. So again, depending upon what the report says, it may be that we just pay much more attention to where that fold would be if we have a ballot that is folded. Again, this is all preliminary. We need to wait for the report and understand what it says before we jump to any conclusions. But I just wanted to make sure that we all had similar information. Some of you may not be following the live stream as much as I am, so I wanted to give you that. And we will continue from there. So the first, unless there is something else, the first bill I want to take up is 98, House Bill 98. And I'll turn it over to you, Senator Birdsall.
Thanks. Thank you. Senator Susie and I actually, I think it was it Tuesday? No, Monday. Monday, we had a Zoom meeting with the Secretary of State and of Vermont, who has recently changed their dates, actually twice. And they did see an uptick in participation. However, they presume it was because of the 2020 election. But what we've done here, I have an amendment. It's 1576S, and I apologize. I had it done pretty early last week, and I thought I got it out to everyone. I did not. But basically what it does, Vermont had changed their date from I think the last Tuesday in August, and then they were still having trouble because of how Vermont works is, when there's a recount, it has to go to the courts. So they were still running up against a problem with the 45-day requirement for UCAVA votes. So they brought it back to the second Tuesday in August. Senator Susie and I talked about it. We thought that was probably the most reasonable. It wasn't as late as September, but it wasn't as early as June, because obviously, as we saw, we got some comments from the town clerk's office. June is a period of time where they're doing the tax bills for their towns or their cities. So 1576S basically changes the date of the primary to the second Tuesday in August. And what it also does is it changes obviously it changes the forms, but it also changes the filing period from the first Wednesday in May to the following Friday from the first. So the same time period, but just a month back. And that's basically, plus it changes the dates on the certificates that we have to sign. So that's basically it, 1576S. Senator Susie, you have any comments?
Just a couple of things, not to repeat what Senator Birdsall said, but one of the things the Secretary of State pointed out is that in their mind, the most significant reason for increase or decrease in participation is really the candidates that are running and whether there are active primaries or not. I think this change addresses a couple concerns. One, it addresses the concern that the clerks had about trying to process and prepare for an election in the midst of tax collection as well, because many of our clerks have dual roles. The other thing is the effective date of this change would be January 1st of 2023. I think after talking, we recognize that there is a concern about redistricting and the timing of having the legislation enacted, so that when candidates sign up for office, they have to know the district lines in which they're signing up. So in order to avoid that confusion, we thought if we made it effective January 1st of 2023, we could get through and at least settle the districts that we have into September and then go from there. So.
And that is, I just noticed, Senator Susie, they did not pick up that change. So it says this act shall take effect 60 days after its passage. So we're going to have to change that.
We'll have to make that a committee amendment.
What date would you like in there?
January 1st,
2023.
Okay. I'll have them change that when they.
Thank you.
Senator Ward?
Thank you, Senator Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Got to get it right. I had talked to quite a few of the clerks in my bigger towns and even some of the smaller towns, and they said, please, I will oppose this bill. We have so much to do the last 2 weeks in June. Please don't give us anything else. So that's good. And I did check with one of the larger communities, and she said August should be fine. So I'm glad to see that for all the clerks that we have.
Yeah, that's probably one of the primary, well, there's a couple of reasons to change it. One, and I'm glad the clerk spoke up, because I didn't even think of that in the beginning, but like I said, the biggest issue for me before the clerks, I found out about the clerks, was the fact that, the senators would be at a total disadvantage, because if it were June, then we get the majority of our the bills from the House during that period of time when we will be campaigning. So I think that would be a tough haul for us, especially with the number of bills that come over from the House annually. So, but I haven't heard from the dairy clerk, and he was going to call me, but I think they told him that I was going to be changing it to August. So maybe I'm hoping that's why I didn't hear from him.
Any additional comments? Seeing none, I think we need a motion of ought to pass.
I move ought to pass on the bill.
I'll second.
Okay. And then we need a motion of ought to pass on 1576 as amended by the committee.
With the change in the date, correct?
Mhm.
I move ought to pass on amendments 1576S.
Second.
Okay, additional comments?
Hmm.
Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Senator Birdsell,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes,
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Cuoca,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. And we're back to the main motion as amended. Any additional comments? Seeing none, Senator Birdsell,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
yes,
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Cuoca,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Do I have a motion for consent? Or does anyone want to keep it off of consent?
it'd be nice for the rest of the senators to know.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
true. So we should probably
Leave it off.
speak on it.
Okay. Senator Birdsell and Senator Susie, which one of the two would you like to take it out?
I'll take it out, and Senator Susie, if you want to back me up.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
One down.
Moving right along. House Bill 291. And you have in front of you a copy of 1649S.
Mhm.
1649S changes the responsibility for looking at those absentee ballots to the Attorney General's office. My vision when I wrote this is that there would be a report that would be written to come right out of the database, where it would list the two categories that we specify plus anything else that they want. But if there are multiple ballots being sent to a particular address, that they would get that information in that report. And the feeling there is that if this were to go to anyone else, some of the key information in identifying what is going on might be missing. If we believe in the case of the report that those that were on election law in the prior session actually saw some of the data, the age of the people, so that if there is, in a college town in Boston that 15 ballots are going to one particular address, but all of those people are 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, then that doesn't raise to the same kind of concern that if I have that number of ballots and it is distributed over a broad age bracket. Again, but neither of those should be taken as anything that's not correct until someone actually looks into it. The other thing was a high number of absentee ballots in one community, that something may have happened in that community. And again, this is trying to be not intrusive on people's lives, but just looking to see if there is anything that does need to be checked out a little bit further. So I think that this it does that. When I talked with the prime sponsor of the bill, I expressed my opinion that just the fact that we have this in statute and that there will be a report written on it may be enough to deter anyone from actually doing it. And this would be the least onerous on the AG's office, just reviewing this report and seeing if there is something that would need further investigation. Comments from anyone?
So am I to understand, just for clarity, that the report that the House and the Senate committees would not get any information on addresses? They would just get a report on any oddities that the investigator found?
Right. If there were no significant items, the report might say that, the most number of ballots sent to any one address was 5, and that that address was a building that was used by a university as a dormitory, or whatever, just some factual information about what they did find, and would not necessarily contain any personal identifying information or even the address to which those X number of ballots went. Or, it may, on the other issue about a community, it may say that the range of absentee ballots was 1% to 3%, and, that kind of thing. I'm certainly did not put in here any requirements that they provide us any more than, in my opinion, they need to tell us, yes, we did the report, and no, we didn't find any problems. What additional information they feel is good for us to know. I would expect them to use good judgment in doing that.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay.
Don't think, once again, I just don't see the need for the legislation. I mean, these are processes that already occur, that are investigated. Once again, I do always appreciate your diligence, Mr. Chairman, in trying to find a happy medium, a common, understanding and a better place. But I just fail to see why we even need the legislation at all.
Well, my response to that is whether it's whatever system we use for checking to see if people have voted in 2 different states or in 2 different places in New Hampshire, that I believe that we have an obligation to the people to make sure the elections are free and fair, and that people are following the rules, and that if I am in charge of any system, and there's a possibility that there's errors in those systems, and I can do a check on whatever periodicity, then I believe that as long as that's within reason, and we're really talking about 2 reports in a 2-year period, one for the presidential election and one for the general election. Not trying to do that for the primaries, so that they would be almost separated by a year between those 2 reports. And again, if the Secretary of State and the AG cooperate, it can be as simple as hitting a few buttons to have that report generated, at least collecting the data, looking at it may take longer depending upon what they find. Okay. Then I is there a motion of ought to pass on the underlying bill? I think Senator Birdsell just said that she
Ought to pass.
ought to pass. And I will second that. A motion of ought to pass on the amendment. In fact, I'll move amendment 1649S and looking for a second.
Second it.
Okay, Senator Ward, any additional comments? Okay, I'm seeing none. Take the vote on the amendment. And Senator Birdsell,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes, on the amendment.
okay. Senator Perkins Cuoca,
Yes.
okay, 5-0 on the amendment. And now we're back to the bill as amended. Okay, any additional comments? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Senator Birdsell,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Susie,
No.
Senator Perkins Cuoca,
No.
and the chair votes yes. And I will take that one out. All right. These bills will be going on the addendum as best I know. And since we don't have one that requires a blurb yet, we are not imposing on Trish too much yet.
It's okay. I love writing those blurbs.
Well, as much as I do change them when you send them to me, I do appreciate.
You don't have to worry about it.
I do appreciate your effort.
Thank you.
It helps me focus my thoughts too. So. Okay, so now we are at House Bill 391. And Senator Susie, this is your amendment, so you've got the floor.
Yes, I'm sorry I sent it to you so late, but essentially, since we had merged this bill into another, I think we had talked about the potential for doing a study. I thought it would be best if we did a commission so that we actually had participant from the Secretary of State's office and the Attorney General's office at the table and part of the discussion. So if you look at the amendment, I have 2 members of the Senate appointed by the president, 1 from each party, 3 from the House, 2 from the majority, 1 from the minority, and then a designee from both the Attorney General's office and the Secretary of State's office. And in the duties, I tried to pull in some of the things that we've previously talked about, including comparing our existing campaign finance laws with federal, trying to deal with the issue of local communities. There are a lot of local committees that participate, for example, in city or town elections, but then also participate in state elections and how we reconcile the reporting for those so that they're not duplicative. And let's see, and just looking at overall a more streamlined and smooth process that continues to ensure transparency, but that provides for more clear process for both candidates and committees that are filing these reports. And then the standard language for the committee is included as well.
Okay.
If anybody has any additions or deletions to the duties, I'm open, but as I said, tried to encompass some of the concerns that had been previously raised.
I do, but I'll go last. Senator Ward.
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions. I did take a look at the 664 and realizing there's only 1 and 2 there. So this will replace the whole thing. And I think the composition of the study committee is fine. When I read through the whole thing, I did have a question that, pardon me, this election law is sort of on the new thing for me. You have on the, let's see, 7.2, prospective repeal. And then you're referring back up to the new 5-D. And I'm just curious, why is it a prospective repeal?
Senator Ward, if I may, because we, in an effort to try to keep the statutes up to date, put in those repeals so that it comes off the books once the committee has reported out, so that you don't have this law on the books that there's this committee, because we don't intend for it to be ongoing. We intend for them to complete their work in a finite period of time. So then it wouldn't be needed in the statute anymore.
Okay, thank you for that.
Sure.
Senator Susie, can you just explain your thoughts about D, providing direction and clarity for those committees that have local reporting requirements in addition to the state reporting requirements?
Right. So it's something that I've actually talked to Secretary Gardner about. There are, as I said, so let me use Manchester as an example, because it's the question that I've had with him. So in the city of Manchester, there are going to be municipal elections happening this September and November, so primary and general. In order to participate in the elections, the city clerk and the city charter provides for reporting requirements for the Manchester Democratic Committee. At the same time, our state law says if you have money in an account, so let's say the Manchester Republican Committee, you're required to report even though you're not engaging in state election activities. So you're filling out reports, but they have different deadlines, different timeframes. And I just want to come up with some kind of unifying process so that if you're always reporting on an annual basis, the reports essentially, and this might not be the conclusion, but the reports that you file at the municipal or town level disclosing donors and expenditures could be copied and satisfy the requirements for the Secretary of State, so that you're not doing a whole new set of reports.
Okay, so.
That's why I think it's something that they need to take a look at.
Okay.
Because there's nothing in statute. Because when I spoke to Secretary Gardner about it, I said, but I filed a report, so the Manchester Democrats filed a report with the city clerk. And I said, but there's a June requirement because we're a committee that also supports state candidates in elections. And he said, oh, we haven't had that issue before. And I said, well, do I just file both, but with different cutoff dates? And he said, yeah, essentially that's what you have to do. But you're right. I mean, it's the same information. It's different timeframes. So I just think we need to kind of reconcile. And
so if you're a committee that supports local candidates in local elections, you have a different filing period than those if you're a committee that only supports statewide.
Correct.
Okay, got it. You learn new things every day, as my mother used to say.
Okay, additional comments?
No.
Senator Susie, I'm back, the paragraph before that, C. And let me just tell you how I would have probably worded that. Making legislative recommendations to streamline and improve the current process in an effort to balance transparency and reporting requirements for both candidates and political committees. Okay, and the word balance is important to me because I can increase transparency down to saying every dime that you spend has to be accounted for, and I'm more in trying to reach that balance I mean, our laws could say if I send out a solicitation to someone, I should mark the 55 cents that I spent on that stamp, the 9 cents that I spent on the envelope, the 2 cents I spent on the paper, the toner, and add that all up and say, I sent that solicitation to Senator Susie, and that would be transparency.
Mhm.
But it's
I
not
would-
where I want to go.
I would certainly accept that as a friendly amendment, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Could you
Okay.
just read it one more time?
Yep. And in fact, you take the word increase transparency and you make it to balance transparency. And then you take out ease of, and then after reporting, you put in requirements. All right. Read that way and see if that makes sense to you.
So actually, if you just replaced the word transparency with, or if you just replaced increase with balance.
Yep. That's
That-
what I'm trying to do.
Yep.
And then you also need to take out, I took out ease of, and I just said reporting requirements.
Okay.
I mean,
Yep. I'm perfectly comfortable with that.
Can that be a committee amendment?
Mhm.
as long as we agree.
Mhm.
The question that I have on B in front of that, as far as I know, because candidates for Representative Congress and US Senator report to the federal government, that they're exempt from reporting to the state.
They are, but once again, it goes back to those entities like our state parties that have to file both and that participate in both. I don't know that there's a recommendation to that, but I think it's something that should be taken into consideration. So to the extent we make changes in deadlines or in, I know we already had a bill that changed the thresholds. I just think that should be examined as part of the overall process and making recommendations. I don't know in the end that we make significant changes to our state process, but I think we just need to be mindful of there are entities that report at both the state and federal level.
So as to make sure that there's not a lot of overlap.
Right, or redundancy, or where you can, coincide so that you're preparing one report, but it might satisfy both requirements.
Okay. Any additional comments? Senator Ward?
I just have a question. On 7, the report will be done and presented on or before June 1, 2022.
Mhm.
So if I understand it right, that now this report will be used to produce legislation for spring 2023.
Correct.
Okay,
To the extent we could enact something in that period of time, it's, I think, going to be a bigger task once people start jumping into it, because I myself, on several occasions, trying to look at legislation, have found inconsistencies in the statutes. I just think it's going to take time. I
Mhm.
think if we tried to do January 1st, it might be tough. Now, there's nothing that would preclude the commission from completing their work sooner, and then maybe some of those recommendations could be enacted, but.
Okay,
Well, certainly, I did start looking at this last fall, okay?
Mhm.
And that was the reason why we talked about the legibility of the reports that people issue, okay?
Mhm.
I can fill out all the reports you want, but if you can't read them, then certainly it doesn't meet the criteria of transparency. And trying to go further than that with the way the statutes are right now will, in my opinion, require pretty much a complete rewrite of them. And so, I agree that, this is needed. And I guess I'll stop there.
Yeah, that was actually exactly my question, was the one that Senator Ward raised on the timing. I mean, I think it probably works well the way you have it, Senator Susie, just because I think the last thing any of us want to do is create ambiguity around the 2022 elections, so where we're looking at changes in the filing dates for 2023. I think it makes sense for these to be changes in 2023 as well.
Mhm. We've just, we'll see if they're enacted. Hopefully the House concurs with some of the campaign finance changes that this committee has already made. It would also give those changes an opportunity to sort of work through.
Right.
All right. Do I have a motion on the bill itself?
Move on to pass on House Bill 391.
Second.
Okay. Do I have a motion on an amendment?
Ought to pass with a committee amendment.
So I have an ought to pass on 1640 as amended by the committee on lines 2 on page 2.
Mhm.
Second.
All right. Any further comments? Okay, I will call the roll. Senator Birdsell,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes,
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Coca,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. And now we're at the bill as amended.
Move on to pass.
Second.
You already did.
That's
Yeah.
right. Sorry.
And Senator Susie already, you seconded it.
okay.
We're all set unless there's a comment. Okay, Senator Birdsell,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes,
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Coca,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Do we want to bring this to consent?
Sure.
Okay,
It's a study, so.
yeah,
Mm.
I agree.
True.
All right, so I didn't hear anyone else second it, so I'll second it. All right, we'll call the roll. Senator Birdsell,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
yes,
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Coca,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. And Senator Susie, you haven't gotten one yet today.
Okay, I'll take this one. Yes, Trish, I know it has to be done right away, so I will be waiting for that.
Thank you.
Okay, that being the end of all the bills that were assigned to us.
Good job.
Great work.
Does anyone have any comments?
Nope. It's been great working with you guys, and Senator Gray, why don't you keep us updated on some of the information on the Windham incident?
I will, as best I can. I try to time it, when I think they're going to talk, but that doesn't always happen. And the last thing is that in tradition of the election law committee in years past, we all tried to go out and have a meal together, and that would include you too, Trish. So maybe, when we get into June, we'll be able to do that, and I hope that we'll be able to meet and have some food and enjoy each other's companies. So
Yeah.
with that, we'll take a motion to come out of the executive session.
so moved.
Second.
All right, and we'll call the roll. Senator Birdsell,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes,
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka.
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
We have a motion second to adjourn. I will call the roll. Senator Birdsell,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
yes.
Senator Susie,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you all for your participation and cooperation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thanks for all of your great leadership as well.
Take care.
Thank you.